It's no secret that Western industrialized countries have contributed the most greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. However, individuals in lesser developed nations tend to suffer more from the impacts of climate change, as they have less access to climate mitigation measures such as air conditioning. Today I wanted to explore this dynamic by comparing the lived experiences of two individuals. To do this, I ran the exact same interview with a family in the United States that makes slightly below median income than a family in Zimbabwe that was making slightly above median income.
My name's Liz Van Vliet, and I'm a single mom of four. They are my life and my whole world, love them a lot. And I am a property manager with Cornerstone Real Estate Team.
How are you? I'm Blessing. I'm a digital creator. I love designing and I love media stuff.
Here, everybody can have a yogurt for a snack. Raspberry?
How often do you go grocery shopping?
Groceries, usually I'll do on average probably once a week.
Grocery shopping is probably once a month.
How often do you order things online?
Because of the broad challenges of ZESA, we don't rely on internet, and the internet also is expensive. Buying the data is expensive. We normally rely on in-store shopping.
It might sound bad, but I do a lot of Amazon. It's a lot easier than loading up 4 kids to take them to a store.
And what do you eat for your meals?
In the morning, I go for bread. I think bread is something that is affordable. In the evening, probably I'll go for salad and rice and some chicken in good days. Maybe two strong meals per day. One strong in the morning, one strong in the evening, yeah.
Favorite breakfast is probably going to be eggs, bacon, sausage, and a little bit of fruit. Dinners is where I like to do stuff. We do a lot of protein, again, because of my diabetic daughter. So we always have some type of meat. Most of the time it's either going to be chicken or turkey. We don't do red meat horribly often.
Do you have a vehicle, and how do you transport yourself usually?
I have a 2010 Chevy Traverse.
A bicycle is actually my mode of transport at the moment.
Like a normal day, just taking kids to school, going to the office, coming home. It's probably around like 50-55 miles a day.
Have you ever flown on an airplane?
Maybe when I was a kid, but I don't remember flying on an airplane. I've never.
I did a lot growing up, but that was on my parents' time. Since having kids and being an adult, I have been on the plane 3 times in the last 6 years.
About how much do you spend on utilities every month?
Usually our utility bill is anywhere from $300 to $400, which is insane, and I hate it. I think our last bill was like $420. So I challenged my kids that if we're not using it, unplug it. I figured if we can come together as a family and save as much electricity as we can, then I'm going to take everybody out to ice cream.
Do you have heating and cooling in your house?
Yes, so we do have central heat and central air.
No, we don't have.
How do you deal with the heat on very hot days?
We don't have other means but to endure, because like what I said, when ZESA is not even available, and the only thing that you can do is to find a shade, probably a tree, to go and sit close by, or to just stay outside the house. Even at my place where I stay, it's actually very hot right now as I am talking to you.
Has your power been shut off within the last year?
No, thankfully not.
Many times. I don't remember how many times.
Have you noticed any significant changes in the weather in Bulawayo in the last several years?
Where it used to be a cool city, there've been a rising of temperatures, high temperatures.
During summer, it's extra hot. I swear every summer it gets hotter and hotter. And every winter that I've noticed is different in my opinion, because we don't have as much snow anymore and as many cold days. We'll have super cold days, but then we'll have a warm day thrown in. Like it's December right now and my kids are jumping on the trampoline.
Have you ever had a moment where it's been difficult to put food on the table?
definitely gets hard a lot of the times, and I have had several times where I didn't know what I was going to put on the table, and I always, when it comes to those moments, I will stop eating to make sure that I have food for my kids, because they're way more important than me.
Yeah. I did hate such moments. My wife really wanted the court wedding, unfortunately, the real wedding, the white wedding, but we couldn't afford because we didn't have enough finances. And I remember those days, we had one strong meal a day, probably in the evening, salsa and probably rice.
What is your main source of water?
Tap water. Just the water that comes out my faucet.
Because of the challenges with water in our country at the moment, we get water twice a week. So we have to store the water somewhere and wait for the water to come back again. Yeah.
You know, gosh, 10 years ago, if people brought up global warming, it was something that I didn't take seriously. And I was like, oh, okay, they're just a bunch of conspiracy theorists. Like, it's not that big a deal, let's be real. But it is a big deal, and I can see that now as an adult, and thinking about my kids' future, I think about more than just climate change. I think about a whole bunch of things that I'm worried about for my children's future. But climate is one of them, because I have already noticed how hot it's getting now, and the differences between winter and summer now compared to what it used to be. Then if that's the path that we're headed down, what is it going to be like in 80 years?
It's fall here in Zimbabwe, and it should have cooled off a little bit. However, when I was in Blessing's one-bedroom apartment filming this, I was dripping with sweat. He kept on checking in on me and offering me bottles of water, while at the same time his 3-month-old baby was sitting in his wife's lap. Look, Blessing is a very talented guy. He's built an array of skills with incredibly limited resources, and he works hard every day to educate himself and to provide for his family. However, Blessing and his family are dangerously vulnerable to the climate crisis. This interview is just one small comparison, but I think it helps to reveal a large underlying theme. While Lizzie has a much higher carbon footprint than Blessing, this isn't her own fault. The reality is that in the US, it is ridiculously hard to lead a low-carbon lifestyle. Think of all the ways you use electricity in a day. Now remember that 80% of electricity generated in the US comes from fossil fuels. Chances are, if you have to commute somewhere, you're going to use a car, just like 73% of other US Americans. Our lives are shaped around energy consumption, and our cities are built around car use. Now, to reduce fossil fuel emissions, we have to change decades of infrastructure that has been built around the use of fossil fuels. The horrible irony of this is that the fossil fuel industry has known about climate change for over 40 years. In the 1970s, Exxon ran extensive climate change research that helped to first prove the greenhouse effect. Realizing this, ExxonMobil, under the leadership of Lawrence Rao, invested in research and development for electric vehicles and renewable energy in the early 1980s. So what happened? Well, a new person took role. When Lee Raymond became the senior vice president of ExxonMobil in 1984, he cut all research on climate change and renewable energy.
There was a time in the late 70s that your company spent a lot of money at that time to say, is there an alternative fuel that will work so that we don't have to burn fossil fuels and put all that CO2 in the atmosphere?
We were the first oil company that really spent a lot of money looking at all that.
And the results were what?
None of these technologies, and we looked at everything. I mean, we looked from soup to nuts. That none of these technologies were going to be competitive against oil. The conclusion we came to, Charlie, was that fossil fuels had such an economic, first of all, such an economic advantage, and secondly, such a relatively ease of use, that it was going to be very difficult to displace them.
Remember, ExxonMobil was the largest company in the world at this time. Lee Raymond was well informed on climate change and knew the potential impacts of climate warming. However, he made a decision in the spirit of capitalism that has changed our world forever. Today, the US is still the leading producer and consumer of oil in the world, with 73% of US emissions coming from the burning of fossil fuels. Historically, the fossil fuel industry has denied climate change, spread disinformation, and is now perpetuating delay tactics to resist change. And it has worked every step of the way. ExxonMobil is still one of the largest companies in the United States and I am completely confident that there is no climate-friendly future in the United States that also involves the incredibly clever, powerful, and manipulative fossil fuel industry. It's incredible. They've had 4 decades that they have known about climate change, and they haven't budged. So, I know there have been some pretty bold claims in this video. However, all of my sources are down below, and they're backed up by peer-reviewed or incredibly reputable sources. There's also some interesting climate science reading, and there's a lot more history on the fossil fuel industry. So go check it out down below. It's super cool. I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.